that I did it.
You know, I agree with you. I can tell you that being out on the campaign trail, my mom was, very instrumental. My children were out there. My daughter, she was like 4 at the time, and she had her own campaign spiel that nobody taught her. And one of my opponents, Richard Perk, and Rich and I really, really became close friends. I thank God we had a really, really good campaign experience, and most of us got along really well. And most of them really embraced my children. So Richard Perk is coming out of a venue, and my daughter has my hand card, and she asks, she says, "Hi, can you vote for my mom?" And then she told him all of these things, about me. And he did the kindest thing, because he took the card and said, "Sure, I'll vote for your mom." And I just thought that was really, really wonderful, and it just kind of spoke volumes to me about him, his personality, his character. And we just became friends. And then a lot of my opponents, they kind of got used to seeing my children on the campaign trail. My daughter really liked Stephen Jupiter, and she was like, she was just like, "Yeah, can you vote for my mom?" But they were really, we really had, for the most part, a good group of candidates.
We took one of those old school red wagons, and we put some campaign signs on side of them, and my kids would have the T-shirts, and my wife, we were all out there and just dragging the wagon down the street, and my kids knocking on doors. And I have these great pictures of them participating in the process. And I got to visit their schools. My son got to introduce me to his classmates during the election. He encouraged his classmates to vote for his dad, who has his same name.
Right.
It was just, it was fun to have them part of the process, and I want them to continue to be involved. And since I've been elected, they visited the Capitol. They've walked the halls of the state legislature. I've taken them down to the floor, and I've also took kids from Algiers. Pastor David Perry has a church camp, and so we were able to put some kids on a bus and bring them up to the Capitol and visit, and have the Speaker of the House of Representatives welcome them and introduce them. I think all of us should experience that.
Oh, I think you're definitely right. I remember when I was walking through Congress, and we looked in the building, and we're looking at everything.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it really, really is. And then, we had the opportunity to actually make it down there and go on the floor, because we had one of those private tours. But I tell you, it was really, and I was so surprised that the room is so small. Yeah. Because, on television it looks huge, but it's really not that large. And so it is. But I think our children, especially our children who won't get the opportunity to do it at all. So I think what Pastor Perry is doing is really, really important, to give them the exposure. And we talk about the educational component. They need to know, and they need to see, I could just be just like Representative Carter.
Oh, yeah.
And they need to be able to touch you and see you that, hey, you are this little boy, who grew up in Algiers, and had some of the same concerns, ideas, struggles, frustration, and this is where you are, and hard work paid off.
Exactly right, and like them, I'm from the cutoff. I'm from Algiers. I know the same people they know, and I grew up on the same streets that they grew up on. And to tell them that you can be whatever it is you want to be. That one of the great things about this country is that you can educate yourself out of whatever your circumstance might be. You have to have some luck, but luck is when preparation meets opportunity. You have to be prepared, so when your opportunity presents itself, you can take advantage of it. But to show those kids that, hey, listen, I am no different than you. I'm older, have grayer hair, but I come from the same neighborhoods you come from, and here I am representing you, and you can do it too.
And we have great leadership, I think, with our schools in Algiers right now. I'm really, really excited of the direction that Landry Walker is going into. So they have a bunch of things going on called academies. So they've partnered with different universities, and Delgado Community College, SUNO is over there, and they're having these partnerships going on, saying, hey, we're going to treat our students, like they're college students, and we're going to expose them to the college experience and put them on, some kind of college track, which I think is really good. They're doing the STEM program with Dr. Mackey. So I think, again, giving children a different opportunity, because unfortunately, a lot of children, sometimes they only see the police officer, and sometimes they see the police officer in unfortunate circumstances circumstances. They only see the teacher. They only see the doctor. And then out of those three professions, it's kind of like, okay, well, what else do I do? Because I don't know anything else. So I think it's really, really important to give them the exposure so they can see the diversity that we have in the professional world, and then make better choices.
Yes, and we were talking about it before we were on air, the fact that we're attorneys,
Right.
members of the bar, and I know I've been practicing for a few years, and so have you, and we kind of take for granted that accomplishment that here we are, members of the bar, the Louisiana State Bar Association, and we shouldn't forget how hard that is to achieve that. And the lack of people like us truly representing the profession, and so we need to encourage others and say, hey, listen, you can be a lawyer too. You can be a doctor. My wife is a physician. She's from New Orleans like we are. And that is attainable, that you can achieve that. But we also have to recognize, I think, in our schools that everyone's not going to be a lawyer. Everyone's not going to be a doctor. But yet you can still go out and be whatever it is you want to be. About a year or so ago, I went on this trip to Angola prison, and inside of Angola, there's this reentry program. There are all these rules around it, where if you have like a non-violent, non-sex offense, a sentence of less than 10 years, you can go through this program and you can be released early. You have to go through family counseling. You have to have counseling, but you have to get a trade while you're there. And so while in Angola, in prison, you can become a certified auto mechanic. You can become a licensed AC repair person. They actually have a state-of-the-art, Johnson Controls provided it, AC repair shop, where the prisoners are learning how to repair high-tech AC units. And after they go and they get certified, the prison actually puts them to work repairing the AC systems or repairing whatever may be wrong. Or they work on the vehicles of some of the guards. And once they complete a certain amount of hours, there's a counselor or a coordinator who does nothing but call around and try to get them a job. They get a job and they're released. And it's a great program. We need to certainly look at reentry issues. We have the highest incarceration rate in the world, but it's a shame that our kids can go and become a certified auto mechanic in prison, but yet we don't have some of those programs in our high schools. That you can't pick up those sort of trade skills in our schools, but you can pick them up in some of our prisons. And I think that's one of the issues that we certainly have to focus on, because not everyone's going to be fortunate enough to become a doctor or even want to be a doctor or a lawyer or some professional.
And we need the AC man. I can tell you that within the
Especially now.
Yeah, exactly. In the last, I kid you not, in the last 2 to 3 months, I have spent about $7,500 with different AC companies just trying to get AC issues fixed. And it's been insane, but you have to pay it because, when the house gets to about 95 degrees, you realize that this is unbearable and you have to
How did they do it back in the day?
I know. Well, cutting that grass with that non-gas-filled lawnmower like she's doing, I'm telling you. But, and that's one of the things that I can appreciate that Ms. Carter and Mr. Casby they're trying to bring into Landry Walker with all the different trades. And I do agree with you. The ASC certified, I think that we need to have that trade. We need the plumbers, the electricians, because these are jobs where they're going to be needed no matter what.
And it pays well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I would like to see them. We've talked about looking into our LPM program. Our partner with Delgado so that they can do some transitions to get into their RM program, because I think the CNA program is okay, but the CNA program won't put them in a different income bracket. So I'm really, really pushing to say, let's try to see if we can get an LPM program started so that way they can have a different opportunity and then a better quality of life. And I think that's really, really important. I do think that the reentry program is really, really good. I always applaud Judge White and Judge Hunter because they spearheaded that. Yes. And then we've seen that move around the state.
And we've in this past legislative session, we expanded that to even more parishes. Right. I don't know the exact numbers. And we also have some judges. Scott Slagle in the 24th has been instrumental in moving it to Gretna and Jefferson Parish. And obviously, we need to fund it better. I mean, it needs more funding and we need to invest in it. And it's actually smart fiscal policy that, look at the cost of incarcerating a prisoner and look at the cost of training that person to be released. And not only do you there's a difference there that you save on. This is how much you can save if this person isn't incarcerated. But now, instead of having someone who's incarcerated, you have someone who's contributing to society. You have a father for his kids. You have a husband for his wife. You have someone giving to society as opposed to being locked up away from society. So the intangibles there certainly outweigh the fiscal benefits, and the fiscal benefits are great.
Right, and then also it cuts down the recidivism rate.
That's right.
Because when they come out, they actually have an opportunity. When I'm talking to my students, I always talk about, so, if your cousin is released from prison, and he doesn't have any skills, if he can't get a job,
that's right.
Because that, and that's real for them. So they fill out the application, but then sometimes they can't fill out the application because they can't complete it for whatever their educational level is. So then it's only going to be a short period of time that your cousin is just going to kind of be able to stay at your house, and then at some point you're going to get frustrated because my mom had the concept, if I get up in the morning and go to work, then everybody in the house, you got to get up and do something.
Right.
So and I use that example to say, okay, so then at 60 days out, his reality changes, and so he'll want the $150 tennis shoes, and he'll want the $80 jeans that one of my students told me is called. It's not used. It's called dreaded or something like that.
I don't know. I'm so out the loop.
So
I used to know those things.
So it's called dreaded or something like that. It's called now. But they're like $80, and then but all of these things. So then if he can't get the job,
that's right.
Then it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna take the risk. So we were talking about rational choice theory, and so we have this theory out here, but I don't really believe that when those guys are committing those crimes, I don't think that rational choice theory comes into play like some criminologists believe that it does. I think that they're looking at the immediate need now. They're not thinking about, okay, well, if I get arrested and then I get convicted, I'm billable now. And in Orleans Parish, we multi-bill a lot of people. So, when we multi-bill him, so then on the third conviction, and now you at life,
right.
For crack.
I mean, and when you think about, it's really shocking when you think about it. Louisiana has the highest incarceration rate in the world.
Right.
The world.
Yeah.
Highest in America, higher than Russia, higher than China, higher than Latin America, the world.
Right.
And in a free country, as a great a country as this one is, with all the opportunities that we have, that is something that I believe we should fix. I think that's a travesty. I think that is sad, that is embarrassing, and that is something that we need to put a lot of focus and attention on. Not only how do we educate and start dealing with the true reentry type system, but what are the opportunities we're giving our kids to prevent them from going to jail in the first place?
Right.
And not only that, but you start looking at the nonviolent numbers. So we have the highest incarceration rate in the world. And I asked, as part of the legislative session, I asked the Secretary of Corrections, what's the number who are nonviolent? 11,000. Truly nonviolent. No violence in the police report. It wasn't they committed a violent act and pled to something nonviolent. Truly nonviolent, 11,000. We need to have how do we figure out, some of them have addiction problems. Some of them have educational problems. What can we do to help prevent that, train them, educate them? And more importantly, what can we do to start stemming the tide of those individuals going to jail in the first place?
Yeah, it's really, really
I think it really begins at education.
Yeah, I think it does too. It's really, really concerning. So last week we had a discussion and talked about that we have in excess of $36,000 in DOC facilities, 36,000 people in DOC facilities right now, and then 74.5 of those offenders are black offenders. Another 16,000 plus range between the ages of 25 and 39. And so when I'm looking at these numbers and I'm saying this is really, really concerning, but and I was really, really happy that Congressman Cassidy was able to say what we have been saying for 20 plus years, that the jails are being constructed based on that third grade and fourth grade reading level. And when he said that last year, I was really, really happy because I'm saying maybe somebody's going to listen and say, you know what, we need to really focus on making sure that our children can read. And and we got to really focus on the reading and the writing, because right now we live in this tech savvy world and the texting and the the Facebook and all the postings and Twitter. So we're getting tuned into these characters, and then that's it, not complete sentences. And so I find myself having to say, no, you can't text, and you can't do that, because we're minimizing our oral communication.
Yeah, and not only that, but think about that if there's a correlation between the forecasted prison population and the reading levels of third, fourth, I've even heard second grade, what are we doing to make certain that our kids can read by kindergarten? Well, that's not even an issue. That if you start looking at how do we invest in early education, the return on our dollars come back multifold. I mean, not only can you stem someone away from an anticipated life of crime, but now you have someone who you expect to contribute to society. And the kindergarten is not even required in Louisiana. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but kindergarten is not required. Right. But yet, you should be reading by kindergarten. And what are we doing to make, and we have some wonderful daycare centers in Algiers and across the city of New Orleans and across the state. That is something that I believe should be available to all of our kids. I think if you're 3 years old, you're 4 years old, that you should be able to send your child to public provided early education, that it makes sense for us to invest in it, that it can make the state, that's the best investment that we can possibly make, is to invest in our kids, because they truly are going to represent what our economy looks like 20 years from now.
Definitely, definitely. So Kingsley House came on a few months ago, and they talked about a program that they were using where they would actually go into the house and teach the parent how to educate the child. And so it was like for people who were pregnant, and I think it was to the age of 3. So I thought that was an awesome program. And one of my concerns was, how do we get more people to, invest in it and then pay attention to it and then want the program? So part of this conversation has to be bigger relative to changing people's minds and changing people's outlooks and getting parents to be more engaged in that early education component, because we need to set those bases. Like I think about, when I was pregnant and I was told that, my daughter, we should play certain music for her. And I think it really did help. And, the reading of the stories to her, and, I look at her vocabulary, and I think all of that's really, really important. So like we've talked about in the past, we have to go back and help those other children, and that's why I just applaud the work that's going on at Algiers Charter, because we got to go back and we got to help these children.
Last night I had a bunch of events like I typically do most evenings, and when I got home, my wife was at home in bed with the kids, and they're all reading, and they were taking turns reading different passages of the various books, and she makes certain that they read a certain amount of minutes per day, per week, per month, and things of that sort. And and I remember my mom used to do that. My mom used to do my homework with me, and I can see the difference in my kids. They're very young, 8, 7, and 4, but they read the signs, they read the labels. We try to spell words around them, and that doesn't work anymore. They get it, right? I don't like that, right. But that's also a sign that I have a great wife, and she's also a professional. She's a physician. She's a great mother, and I guess if I could go off script,
she was just recognized, right?
New Orleans City Business just recognized her as one of the Women of the Year for the City of New Orleans, and I'm very proud of her. She's a great mother, But one of the benefits of a good education is I don't care what you have going on in your home. I don't care what kind of mother you may have, what kind of father you have, but everyone, despite where they come from, should have the opportunity of a quality education to educate themselves out of their circumstance.
Thank you so much for coming out. I got to have you back on, because we were supposed to take a break. So we really did go off script, because we didn't take a break. Okay. We didn't do anything that we were supposed to do.
I'm sorry.
No, but that's good. I think we needed to have you back just to kind of give us an update. We want to encourage people to make sure that you go and register to vote. The cutoff for voter registration is October 11th for the November 8th election, which is on a Tuesday. So be prepared for that. Polls open at 6 o'clock a.m., shut down at 8 o'clock p.m. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.